Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to our event tonight. We're going to be having a conversation on drag, queer culture, and labor. We are joined by Black Dynamite, Ricky Rose, Theo Bromine, and Hennessy. And the panel will be moderated by Ryan, who is the organizer with the Claudia Jones School. So thank you all for coming. And we're going to get started.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out on this very hazy day. I'm sure that was so fun to walk through. But it's nothing compared to New York. So climate change is real. Hopefully we can all acknowledge that in this space. But yeah, my name is Ryan. I am an organizer, like Bennett mentioned, with Claudia Jones School. And I am an avid drag performer, seer, and goer. I love the events, but also I love to support workers' rights. And so that's why it's really important that we show up for not only the people that we see working in the traditional service industry, but also the folks that make these bars run the way that they do. So looking at the real backbone of the working industry. So we'll start off with first just saying thank you for all taking time out of your, I'm sure, very busy schedules right now. And so we'll just go down the line, basically let y'all introduce yourselves, give us a little bit of your backstory of how you got into drag. So yeah, we'll start here with Black Dynamite.
Hi, everyone. My name is Black Dynamite. Started drag out of college back in 05. I started drag on a dare in college back in 05. And I'd been performing as a child and, in grade school since about 7 years old. So this is just like, hey, probably do this. This is a lot less nerve-wracking than trying to sing in public. Yeah. And then and I realized, how much fun it was to just do just stupid shit on stage, and stupid and slightly sexy shit on stage. Yeah, I've just been doing it ever since. What else?
That was it. Just introduce yourself. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll keep the two here for the both separate.
Howdy. My name is Ricky Rose, local drag king, drag lesker, genderful gender fucker. Hey, what's up? I have been performing for almost 6 years now, primarily based right here in DC, but I love performing and traveling, so I do travel a lot. That's my American dream, being able to just get paid to fuck shit up on stages. Yeah. I also grew up performing as a child and everything like that, church choirs, school plays, stuff like that. So of course, being an adult and then failing at university and dropping out, I said, hey, let me just be a clown for a living. And I do perform full time. It's very difficult at times, but it's also the happiest I've ever been, and the greatest thing I ever chose to do for myself. So here we are.
Hi, my name is Samson, or also Theo Bromine. I use they, he pronouns. I started drag about 7 months ago. I think I got into it because my persona focuses on making fun of the toxic masculinity that I see at my day job. And so it's though I grew up doing performance stuff as well. My main angle is to see the stuff that I don't see on stage that kind of sneaks into the cracks, and then like try and expose it and make fun of it so people don't forget that that toxic stuff does exist. So yeah.
Hello, my name's Hennessy. I've been doing drag for just a little over 5 years now. I started in college. My friends restarted a drag org. There's an org there that died, and then they restarted it. And I was tasked to do all the like technical elements. I was a drama major and I'm also a theater director, so I was like, yeah, great, that works. And then for the next show, they got me to do the lit lights and sound again, but they also somehow convinced me to perform. And I said yes, and I actually really enjoyed it. As a theater kid, I was never on stage because I would say my only flaw is that I can't sing. It's true. And so I never got any roles. I was always backstage. So it was a great little excuse for me to have my any moment.
Yes, love that. A theater kid become drag performer? I would have never guessed. That's wild. That's not a pipeline at all, but thank you for sharing, all of you. Much appreciated. Also, for those of you that just came in, welcome. So now we'll get into some questions, but I do just want to make it clear that all of you don't have to answer each question. If you feel so inclined, please share. But we do have different questions that'll touch on different parts of not only drag, but also like the labor side, how y'all came into this, you know, what it looks like for you now being working drag performers. So it doesn't have to go directly down the line, okay? Nothing about this event needs to be in a straight line, just go ahead. Okay, cool. All right, so for the first question, so for everyone in the audience, although you may be familiar with the art of drag and performances, what that looks like, they might not have an understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, right? And so if you could share what actually goes into creating a drag performance. Take a beat. You can take like 3 seconds and decide if you want to participate in this question.
Well, for me personally, my concept creation has a lot of different factors that go into it, especially as someone who travels a lot and performs just at various different venues and stuff for different styles of performance, because I never want to be put into a box. A lot of times I will also kind of read the room per se and like, okay, what is the show I'm being booked for? What is the like typical audience that I know that attends that venue? Because again, I do this full time. So like, yes, I want to do exactly what I want to do, but I also would like to get paid appropriately. So I do take that into account when I'm creating an act or bringing a specific act to a specific stage. But more than that, it's recognizing what is the message and what is the image that I want to portray with this particular song, with this particular look, with this particular vibe for the show. Yeah, I'll leave it there and let someone else continue.
I think something that also is not really thought about much, even like as drag performers ourselves, is the years and years of work that it took prior to drag to get to where you are. And like for me, I'm gonna say this a lot. I'm sorry, as a theater kid, it's, you know, I did theater for years and years and years and years and years. I have a degree in it, so it's like performing. I was able to get those skills through that. Other people just have to go straight through drag and learn how to perform through there. To see a good, whatever you define as good performance, takes years and years and years of practice. Or not always, but usually takes years of practice. And like in like the day-to-day for prepping for gigs, for me, I sew like 80% of all my costumes. So that is like usually like 10 hours of work at least of just creating a costume. Makeup wise, for me, if I rush, it takes an hour and a half. I want to take my time, that's 2 hours. And as someone like I work like to a 10 to 6 job, so I always have to like plan out my day. Okay, I have to get off of work. I'm sorry if anybody from work is watching at 5:30 instead of at 6, so I can start getting ready early. And then just like manage that. I don't drive, so I have to Uber everywhere. I'm not comfortable taking the metro. So it's a lot of prep and a lot of organizing as well. I'm also someone who doesn't like to repeat numbers a lot. So that also means learning new songs, learning lyrics, which can be difficult. Like for me, I have like auditory processing issues. So, and any lyrics you hear to a song is not what I hear. I hear completely different lyrics. So if you see me lip syncing wrong things, that's why. But yeah.
I pick a song that I like, and then I do that. But really, like, I pick a song that I like, and I think about how either that person performed it or how I would like to perform it, and I do that. There's watching a lot of other performers help. Watching other professional performers, watching bands, watching musicians, watching dancers, watching everyone that performs helps. You can take pieces of what they do and, not necessarily copy it, but like, it might inspire you to do something else. So watching a lot of media and performance really does help, including, from music videos to video games, like just, you get it from where you can get it from.
Thank you. Thank you for those answers, by the way. Right, so following up on that, drag performers are employed a lot differently than other industries. So how are drag performers hired? Maybe y'all could share some experience. We've already got some laughs. So I'm excited. Whoever would like to share.
Unfortunately, and I wish this would stop, but primarily Instagram DMs.
But you're older.
Especially during Pride, especially like a week or two before the gig, because then they realize, oh, we should probably hire some actual gay people. Listen, y'all know I'm about to wake it up, so. But no, yeah, there isn't really any rhyme or reason per se on how most drag performers are hired, other than, social media messaging, or if it is a primarily like queer or gay bar, then say a lot of their own employees also do drag, or at least are very familiar with drag performers, so by word of mouth. But yeah, it's very unconventional, like they said.
For the people who are like booking the gigs, usually it's also all based off of relationship. So it's like who you know this person who's booking, are you friends with them? It's all very bureaucratic. And it's very rare to like get an instant DM from like some random person you never heard of offering a booking. It does happen, but it's usually like people people we've like done shows with before. It's rare for like a stranger to be like, do you want a booking?
Particularly, in addition to like DMs and interpersonal relationships, my experience has been a matter of like, I started drag at the queer bar that I work at, as a second job. And so it's been a matter of maintaining a positive relationship with my employers to ensure that what I want to see happen in drag at my bar continues to happen. Specifically having more trans performers like consistently present in shows. It's been a matter of not like convincing them, but for lack of a better term, like convincing them that like they don't need to worry about us. We're gonna put on a good show. We're gonna like push boundaries and open minds, but put on a good show while doing it. So that can be kind of exhausting, but it's kind of been like the way that in my experience has been how to get booked. Of like, all right, keep the bosses happy. Got it.
To jump off of like strangers hitting you up, most strangers, if they do hit you up for a gig, it's usually because of some other show or someone else. Like, there's not a gig or like an opportunity like this that's not connected to somebody else who thought that my name should be said in a room. So it's, a lot of it is relationships with other performers, relationships with venues, relationships with producers. It's just, it's similar to any freelance work, honestly. And it kind of, which kind of sucks to a degree, but it kind of has less to do with how good or how polished you are. It's more to do with who you're related to. So,
Thank you, spilling all the nepotism tea. We love that. So, and yes, you are correct. I can relate. We have interpreters here. Y'all give it up for the interpreters over here, by the way. Yeah. Word. But yes, so continuing on that conversation, because basically unless you do have like a traditional more like 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 job, you really are not hired in one place. You are freelance. This is all word of mouth, right? But this can also have serious disparities when it comes to pay, right? Pay disparities. And yes, we are about to open this up. So let's really get into it. So yeah, talk a little bit about your experience with disparity in pay, however much you would like to share about that. And let me just make sure I'm getting all the points because Bennett read out some great questions. Give it up for Bennett, the host of the event. So yeah, so if you can talk about a little bit more about like the working conditions and specifically, pay, any disparities or things that you've seen happen in your experience so far.
oh, so I mean, it's hard to say that it's one specific problem. Like, so there is no even pay. Just put it that way. There is no even pay for drag performers, whatever your gender presentation is. That being said, people who are not traditional queens usually get paid like 50% less. And it's determined by the venue. It's always determined by the bar or the place that you're performing in. And then you have the hurdle of the actual producer to get over. So if the venue doesn't think you're worth it, then you probably won't get paid that much. If the producer that you work with, along with the venue, thinks you're not worth it, then you're going to get paid even less. It's in the time that I've been a performer in the city, pay has increased from 25 on average to maybe 75. That's from 2005 to today. Unless you're doing some kind of specialty thing or like a private show or something that has some kind of academic money attached to it, it's going to be about $75 per show. So that's two numbers, 3 hours of work, $75 much.
I will say $75 is also considered good pay. 50 is more standard.
We're getting into it. So, and I guess I'm sorry to bring this up a lot, but as someone who travels a lot, that's actually another reason that I do, because unfortunately, it's very disappointing to me in this city, as gentrified as it is, as high as the cost of living is, that the industry rate for performers is so abysmal. Yes, it is abysmal. I've traveled to Chicago, I've traveled to even Philly, I've traveled to San Francisco, almost everywhere else, the industry rate for performers is much higher. And so that's why, I'll go out there for at least a long weekend, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days at a time, because I don't ask for a high, my own specific rate unless they've requested me to come out there. I say, hey, let me crash on a couch, help me stack up a week of gigs or something, and I will take the industry rate, because even still, then I at least break even on my travel, or usually, especially 6 years into it now, I do come out on top and I make a pretty decent profit. Whereas here, especially as a drag king, especially as a vocal drag king who has been blacklisted by a number of producers in this area because they don't want to hear it, It is not easy to fill a full-time performance calendar and still be able to pay my bills. That's it.
And something I've noticed is, in drag scenes in other cities, like Chicago, like in California, Philly, wherever, they very often have out-of-town guests. Because bars are willing, and I'm not talking about like TV stars, I'm talking about like local performers, people who don't have, the support of a TV show, for them to come out and perform there. And that does not happen often in DC at all, unless you're a drag king and you're doing We the Kings. Because Ricky really does go out of his way to make room for out-of-town kings to perform here. And I think like something also we should talk about is pay disparity between local performers and Rue Girls, specifically like during Pride. The main stage, for example, I don't want to drop names, but the main does not pay performers well at all, and they only recently, from what I understand, started.
Last year was the first year we
Yeah.
paid on the main stage.
Apparently last year was the first year that they were paying local performers to perform on the main stage. While you've seen the names who performed up there and you know that they're not cheap. Even like the smallest like Rue Girls are still thousands and thousands of dollars to book. So it's not that there is a lack of budget, it's that there's just like, I don't know, it's straight, I don't know what the luck is, but they got the money, they just don't want to pay us.
Yeah, I think you were kind of looking for like power imbalance. There's obviously like some serious power imbalance going on with like the notoriety of the queens that do get, yeah, like fame from RuPaul. They just have a lot more access to power, which is basically what you're touching on. So yes, definitely. All right, so moving on. So for those of you who have worked in other nightlife positions, how does your job, oh, we'll give a second for the interpreters. Oh, so I'm just going to start that question again. So for those of you who have worked in other nightlife positions, how does your job as a drag performer relate to your other nightlife roles? And what are the working conditions like for you in those roles? So anything else that you do?
So one thing in like a short time that I've noticed that I've worked in nightlife for now about a year. One or. Well, you can try this one. Hello? Hello. Hello. Oh. Yeah, this one works. So one thing I've noticed, I've worked in nightlife for about a year, like 2-ish months. And I've done drag for about half that time. It very immediately switched gears when I started doing drag that now, whereas beforehand, before I did drag, I would go to one job and the other job, and they're within 2 blocks or within 1 block of each other. And I never really clocked out of either of them. I'm constantly saying hi to the same people in the same space because it's all in one area. One is a gym, one is a queer bar. There's a lot of crossover there. But it went even furthermore when I started being a producer for a drag show because now when I'm working the door and I'm clocked in to focus on keeping people safe, I'm still in like drag mode, like producer mode, where I'm still trying to maintain good relationships with the people who do come to the shows. I'm trying to be an example that shows that a space can be inclusive in a calm, like serene way. And then it even flips on the opposite side when I'm in phase, when I'm at my show and I'm running the show, I'm still worried about people drinking too much and not being hydrated enough. people not respecting each other's consent and boundaries. Not between the three ways of income that I rely on right now, it never really stops. None of them ever really stop. They're all going at the same time.
I've worked in several gay and by definition lesbian nightclubs and bars in DC, closed down quite a few of them. And I've worked in different positions. So I was a go-go in one, doing lights and sound in another, currently still doing lights and sound in a straight establishment. And I was also just I've worked a lot. And then in my, by, what do you say, 10 to 6, it's more like 6 to 6, I do corporate audiovisual services for hotels and convention center. So I'm constantly backstage. Putting that one to the side for right now. All the nightclubs, it's, in comparison to drag, it's basically the same, except nobody's paying attention. It's the same kind of like, it's the same environment where I feel like I have to protect my energy. Whether I'm working behind a soundboard or DJing, doing light and sound, or if I'm up on stage and performing for a crowd and gathering tips. It's the same kind of protection of energy because a lot of people, you're in a bar, a lot of people come in there to get loose. And a lot of people don't have any boundaries anymore once they start drinking. So you constantly have to be protective of your boundaries in that kind of space. One of the owners, managers of nightclubs, in fact, in the old town, he came in and said, one of the staff meetings, like, remember, you are basically babysitters. You're adult babysitters. The goal is to make sure that everybody has a good time and gets home at the end of the night. And like no other questions are asked about anything else that happens within those walls. So you really do still have to be protective of yourself in that space, no matter what. Like many of you have seen my drag, I leave the stage with less clothing than I had on when I got there. But in that, I'm still very aware of where everybody else's hands are, how close people are, like don't touch me. It's a constant. So that's been my experience in my life.
Yeah, so something that was mentioned partially from the last question, and then also now just bringing up how you've basically had so many different perspectives with working in these same places, right? But do you think that has an effect on the relationships that you have with other queens? Say it be, Rue girls or just more well-known local queens, you're traveling. Do you think that that kind of creates weird kind of power imbalance relationships? Do you feel like that might pit different drag queens against each other? Like, what has your experience been with that?
So this is where like class struggle really comes into play because like my drag is mainly tank tops. It's like mainly like blazer tank tops. And then a lot of because that's what I can afford as a minimum wage employee. So when I see like a performer come in with an outfit that obviously costs more than one of my paychecks, just roll through and say that she's been doing this for however many years and that she's seen so much shit because of that. It's like, I don't want to negate that experience, but at the same time, like when you work nightlife and you're not a performer specifically, like there's times you see some very ugly things that I won't specifically say, but it's been bloody, it's been sad, it's been all that stuff. And so when I see a performer that, has a work from home job, has insurance, and that is a nice insurance, and comes to me and talks to me about like what's going on, I have to like compose myself sometimes because here I am, here they are, and there's just a lot of space.
To piggyback off of that, like. The RuPaul's girls and the local girls, there's still like a gigantic gap. You know, no matter how much their attitude is similar, there's still a huge gap. Yeah, so it's. And like when RuPaul's girls come to the city, for me at least, you know, I'm like, okay, well, somebody invited her here. Oh, well, let's see how this goes. And some are all the things that they are. And some are, you look at them, and you're like, okay, that girl had to survive. Like she's gotten to this point and she's not going back. And that's why she is so adamant about her act and about her costuming or whatever. She's just trying to continue to stay at that level. Because who wants to go back down to the floor? You know what I mean? You know, it's just when you work around a lot of performers in general, whether it be in drag or out of drag, you can tell the ones that are working it from home, married to somebody who's probably paying all the bills, and to the ones that had to get it out the mud. And the ones that get it out the mud are always much more entertaining.
Oh, this one works now. I think, well, one, I don't really know how Rude Girls are because people don't book me for Rude Girl shows. And I mean, and that's also coming from like the only like drag queen on this panel. I recognize that I have a lot of like privilege as a drag queen. But I still do have a mustache, so people do treat me differently, which is ridiculous. But I think something that I was thinking about is there are thankfully still Rude Girls and drag performers who have a big following that really understand the struggle. And it's been nice to be able to connect with those folks. And I think something I really love to do always, in any setting that I am, is learn. And I think one of the most intimate places to be is a drag dressing room. I mean, you're like intimate in the sense that you are most likely getting naked in front of these people you just met 10 minutes ago. But also the fact that I think the batteries are dead or something. And the fact that you're also stuck in this, often it's like a dingy basement, a coat closet, a bathroom. It's like the men's restroom or something. Yeah, here it's they're not nice dressing rooms in DC. So it's very much become a bonding moment of being over in those settings. And I think to go more into the class struggle and the class conversation, I think the sad truth is that a lot of performers who have access to wealth and to access to capital, they are very much aware that they have access to that, and other people do not. And yet there is a lot of judgment, a lot of shade, and a lot of harassment even that goes to people who can't afford good drag. And then that also affects your bookings if your drag is not up to a certain standard. And I know this is a big conversation for Kings, so I might let y'all go into this a bit more. That specifically like a standard of drag is not being met in people. I don't want to say this nicely.
Don't say
It's like the mainstream basic drag, if it's not to those standards, if it's not a cute little jumpsuit with fringe, if it's not, if it's not commercial, it's not bookable. So it's very cyclical.
Yeah, and just to piggyback a little bit more off of that, it's been a very unique experience seeing how there is such an underappreciation and respect for local performers. Because like Hennessy said, especially here in DC, I can probably count on one hand how many like a king has been booked with a Rue girl, and yet here I'll go off to other cities and work with big names and everything like that. But then additionally, even in the few instances that I have had the privilege and experience to work with a bigger name here in the city, very often just ignored backstage, just like not even given the time of day, but because of the like, if I'm somewhere else. And then they hear like, oh, I'm from another city as well, somewhere miraculously. Now I'm someone that they can talk to and like be like, give the time of day. And it's been a very interesting and unique experience because of obviously nothing about me has changed from one city to the other. It's just this perception of notoriety or this perception of, are you worth my time? And it's a little discouraging. I mean, obviously, yes, this is a freelance industry. The name of the game is relationships and stuff, but it can be very discouraging at times. Especially like, but first and foremost, yeah, especially seeing that people who really do deserve those spots with the bigger names, like don't necessarily get those either. And especially because like, those are much higher paying gigs, whether the base rate may not be, there's still gonna be a packed house where a lot more eyes will be seen, or a lot more eyes will be on that specific performer, and therefore the tips will also reflect that. So I would just like to see more diverse representation in a lot of those shows.
And it's hard to make an argument when you're still trying to convince people of your existence. There isn't a weekend that goes by that people aren't like, I didn't know drag kings exist. Yeah, and what year is it? So.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing. I could listen to like so much more, but we are on a time limit, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but y'all are like performers or something because you led into the next question. So the next question is literally about what you would like to see happen. What would you like to see improvements within your, work that you do, the places that you do have to show up to continue to gain an income? What are some of the improvements or changes you would like to see?
Fucking dressing rooms. I can't tell you how many basements, like broken tinted back rooms in restaurants, yes, restaurants, that not getting dressed in. Like consideration for actual space for people to, be performers but also a lot of these places are also the places that the employees go to have breaks. So also, yeah. Treat your restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it like a little bit or a second ago. Yeah, more safe and equitable inclusion, primarily, predominantly AFAB and trans, Black and brown performers. DC is a historically Black city. There's no reason that our performance scene should not be reflecting that predominantly on these stages. Additionally, yes, higher pay, god damn, I would like to pay my rent for more than 2 months in a row. Like, yeah, pretty much that, just more safe and equitable inclusion, for.
I would like to see a difference in, and I don't even know what this looks like, but a difference in the expectation for what a drag performer should bring, because even the costume and even the makeup are such pillars of that stuff. The message that a performer has to say, I think at the end of the day is why people come to drag shows. And so I would like to see a reinforced narrative of like, fuck the costume, fuck the makeup, you got something to say, you know what you're saying, are you sure? Okay, go say it. And just like have that be the act.
I mean, that's quite literally what we're doing right now. But I agree, love that. Yeah. Something I would love to see is more support and more space for us to practice our art. like, there's been countless of times where I've like wanted to rehearse a number at a bar to like get used to their stage. And that is like 9 times out of 10, not an option. I would also love, this is a theater kid in me. I would love like more technical elements. So like collaborating with lighting designers, collaborating with like an actual sound designer, not getting this DJ who signed up to DJ and then getting thrown into a track for last minute, to operate sounds. I think that would be great. I think that would like really help production value. Would make shows more exciting. And I'm just gonna echo it again, better pay.
And then, sorry, I just have one more thought that I meant to say. I know I touched on it earlier this evening, but like especially lately, there's just been this like really, really ugly conversation and behavior, or like reactions toward predominantly Black and brown trans performers in this city, who when we do speak up or when we say something, sure, we may not say it the most efficiently or effectively. It may rub somebody the wrong way, but there's this ugly, ugly conversation around a lot of us being aggressive or not easy to work with, and certain just very choice words to address us and speak about us in the background. That is, yeah, it's very ugly. And I really, really want to see that change from a lot of producers, because stuff like it makes me emotional. Because we deserve a space here. If it's an issue of not understanding the way that it is being delivered, then ask for clarification. Because 9 times out of 10, these people that I've seen with this vitriol directed at are not easy to work with. They're good time gal, they're a good time person. They do know how to key and have fun in the dressing rooms or on stage or out in the audience after the show and everything like that. It's just that this like that one instance or whatever ruins that like relationship. And I just think a lot of things are taken out of context. And so I just want to see a lot more conversations happen in private. I know this year alone, I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of those producers, like I mentioned earlier, or whatever. And a lot of things are changing at a snail's pace, but they're changing. And so as this stuff continues, I just want to see more of those conversations happen, and more of these performers who are being shunned or blacklisted simply for being vocal and addressing harms done and problematic behaviors and stuff, not be the ones who are swept under the carpet.
Yeah, tip your fucking local drag queen, y'all. If you haven't heard enough. And kings, I apologize, but performers, yes, exactly, thank you. Yeah, I need to be corrected because I'm up here like, yes, throw the fucking tip at them. And this is why. It's almost like we need worker solidarity. It's crazy. It's almost like this is a class struggle. And if you are privileged enough to be in a space where you don't have to worry about getting your tips from the people that come into these places, you should be giving them money for the things that they are providing you. They are providing you enjoyment. They are providing you a safe space, even when they're not the ones being protected in those spaces. So yes, tip your fucking performers. Thank you. All right, so continuing, so we might go just a wee bit over, so please just be mindful of that. But we do have a few more questions that I'd love to dig in if you're still interested, still with me. So the next question is, what do you think, as we're talking about the disparities and the different things that you've seen and you've experienced and the things that you want to see change, what do you think are some of the obstacles to organizing and improving the working conditions for drag performers?
I think a lot of drag performers are just mean. They're really mean to each other. There's not enough kindness. There's not enough solidarity. And people just won't, like as Rick was saying, people won't have a conversation with each other unless it has to do with them gaining something out of it. So I really think that one of the biggest things is just the conflict within the scene. And I think a big reason of that is because of power disparity. People who have voting power, often use that to their advantage and building relationship. People build relationship with people who have power to get bookings. So everything almost feels like a game rather than like a genuine interaction.
I mean, this is gonna sound terrible, but I mean, we're just a smaller scale version of the entertainment industry. So everything that has happened that has come to light in the entertainment industry in Hollywood and music, it's happening here too. Just with less money. But the attitudes, the narcissism, the nepotism, all that stuff still happens on even this level. And we don't have to be like that. Like, that's kind of the point of being, in our queer little community. Like, we can be different than, than the streets. So, if we can kind of reflect on similarities between the toxic, nature here and, there on screen or in music, we can turn the ship around. Like, we can do things differently. We already know where that goes. We don't have to follow it. And, RuPaul's Drag Race being a large example of how the entertainment industry is just kind of infiltrating drag as well. This is why I'm not here for it. I'm not here for the show at all. I don't like it. I don't want to participate. I don't want anybody to participate in it actually, because it just ruins performance. So.
Ooh, I echo both of those sentiments very heavily. So I won't repeat, but one thing that I've noticed is that where I give, I don't give out cookies a lot, but I'll give a crumb. Is that majority of I have recognized that majority of the shows in DC, the way we make it accessible for the larger community is that majority of our shows are free. Whereas I have also recognized that a lot of these cities that I mentioned where the pay is higher, they charge tickets at their door, and either all the ticket sales or at least a hefty portion of those ticket sales goes toward paying the performers higher. So it's like a very complicated thing to, I guess, figure out, but I think that is one thing that never mind. The bars can still very much avoid something. But yeah, I think that, but it is an obstacle that we face in trying to raise some of those rates, I feel like.
Yeah, and just like, we've been like talking a lot of shit about drag and the drag community, but as Ricky was saying, there is work being done. People are having conversations. People are talking about how to make working conditions better. It's just getting the whole community on board that is difficult.
Yes, thank you, exactly. And whenever you have a small majority of folks that are going to get the big bookings, right, and going to get the notoriety, doesn't matter where they go, nationally or international, they're probably not going to be the ones that are going to be supporting you when you're wanting to organize and things like that, right? So it's going to be coming from your local queer community, right, and local performers as well. So that totally makes sense. Oh, yeah.
Actually, you bring up a very, very good point. We've been having a lot of these conversations. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, thank you.
We've been having a lot of these conversations, and a lot of those of us who have been ostracized or are more of that working class have been really fighting hard to make these changes. And but at the end of the day, yes, I feel like we're starting to kind of maybe hit a wall where, yeah, we do need those more privileged queens, the ones with the cushy jobs, money, whatever, the booking power in this city. I want to name names. to reach across the aisle and join us and put in that work.
And lastly, I think the thing that's difficult is they are in support of all of these conversations. Like, of course, they want more pay. Of course, they want better working conditions. It's the fact that they don't want to jeopardize their relationship with their employers that makes them not want to join the cause.
So they're class traders is what you're saying. Yes, yes, we have class traders, yeah. We can say, I can say it at least. I'll have it. Book them, okay? I'll say it. I don't have anything on the line, okay? I'll say it, all right? But yes, that's exactly what you're describing, but in my own words, that's fine. But it is important, and I think especially when you're talking about service workers, like, if you have a bad experience, like you were kind of mentioning about, oh, you know, they're negative, or they're not easy to work with, or they're hard to work with, look at their paychecks, right? Like, look at their paychecks. When you come into contact with service workers that might be angry or annoyed or not want to deal with you or not want to be there or not want to show up to work or are tired and exhausted and underpaid and underserved themselves, maybe just maybe pay them more, right? Maybe it's not like their self-care regimen, just maybe. I'm just gonna throw that out there, but it could be, I don't know. I don't make enough baths apparently. So on to the next question. So what would you say the level of awareness is among drag performers about labor issues or class consciousness as a whole? So you mentioned, you did kind of touch on this a little bit. Some of the, you know, more notable queens and kings and performers might want to support, right? With, you know, worker solidarity, they might want to support and they might like these sentiments, but they don't want to jeopardize their own relationships, right? So what would you say about that?
I can jump in. I think because drag is a politicized art form, people, the majority of performers are inherently aware of the issues. They might not necessarily have the language or the education to fully like support that and bring words to it. So I do think people are aware. Yeah, people are aware.
I think especially in this city, people are aware. If you go outside, especially before drag was such a button issue, if you go outside of DC where everything's politicized, if you go to Baltimore, they're not aware, they're just trying to fucking survive. You know, and it's not a bad thing, but like it also just shows you where their energy has to be spent. You know, they gotta make this money tonight so they can eat. And not to say that they wouldn't care if we talked about these things and like showed them, you know, the disparities and stuff like that. But it's like, what is the timeline in which that is going to give them help? You know, because they're going to do last month. So, you know, now drag is in the political eye a little more. You know, more performers who otherwise wouldn't be aware of it are aware of it now. I think we're still a couple of years from seeing more organizations pop up. Because this is just the beginning. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Awesome. So before we open it up for a little bit of Q&A, just if there's any questions burning on your mind that you would like to share, we'll take a moment for that. But what we wanted to end with before we give y'all time to plug whatever you're doing over the weekend or these next weeks, what can patrons of drag shows, i.e. the folks that are probably showing up for things like this, what can they do to help you or support you, aside from obviously just showing up to see the performances? What can they do to better help advocate for you as a performer and as someone that is more in like the freelance realm? What can they do?
I mean, think showing up for things like this. Thank y'all for those of you who are here, and whoever may be watching online. That is a very big first step to creating these conversations. But then more than that, also taking, you know, if you've learned something today, please take it back to your friends and share that with them as well. Like, let's continue to take these conversations outside of just drag performers, because again, yeah, we can only do so much. But then, yeah, if you have relations with bar staff or bar management, start talking to them, drop little things here and there, just like, hey, I really, really love the drag shows and the things that are happening here. Like, what can we do to better support them? Or like, what are y'all doing to continue to push this and treat them better, I guess? And then, yeah, share our flyers.
As Ricky said earlier, the name of the game is relationships. And so as a patron, building a relationship with a venue owner, bar owner, club owner, it can go a long way, because sometimes the people who run the venues will listen to the people who come with the money to spend at the venues a little bit more than the people that they're paying to put on a show at the venue. So that being said, if you are a patron and you go to a venue and you see something that you think is worth speaking up about in a positive sense, do it. Because it actually, that kind of stuff, those little like 1% things does add up to make a difference.
I feel like something that goes untouched a lot in the drag community is collaboration with different artists and different organizations. I think if you are like working on like a political campaign, if you are working on a whatever it is that you want to get a message out, reach out to drag artists, get their support. I'm sure we would love to like share a message at our show. There's ways you can like, if you want to like a fundraiser, for example. I know many performers are always willing to support fundraisers and performance. So there are also ways to like collaborate with us and beyond just a typical drag show.
If you happen to work for a corporation and they need entertainment, book a drag person. A lot of corporations just are looking to spend money, because they have to by the end of the quarter. Send that money to us.
Yes.
Invite us to your banquets, invite us to, you know, even just random meetings. If you need us to do a flash drag in the middle of a lobby, we'll do it for $200. Okay, whatever it is, as long as there is a dollar sign attached to it with at least 2 zeros behind it. I mean, let your local drag perform.
You heard that they said 2 zeros. Write that down. Thank you so much. Let's give it a hand. Yeah, and so before we wrap up, I do want to give y'all time just to plug anything that you have going on. But do we have any questions in the audience that would like to be asked? I already see one hand, a lot of hands. Okay. Let's start from the front and then we'll go back because the mic is here and it won't reach there. So we'll start
Okay,
here.
we have 15 minutes for questions. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Christine. Right here, or yeah,
Here?
unless you want to start in the back, it's up to you. For sure. Blue shirt. Okay.
Hi, thank you, guys. I was just wondering, speaking on the commercial aspects or the popular perception of drag, because of the RuPaul Drag Race, I feel like there's this element of competition attached to drag performance. And I was wondering whether this sense of competition or meritocracy or race to the top affects relationships within the drag community, especially in this clientelism, freelance sort of thing that you guys have to navigate.
Yes. And it's only, I mean, but, you know, since I started before the drag race thing, I fucking hate that show. Since I started before the show, there was always something like that. There was always kind of like an air of that. And again, that's just theater kids and entertainment. People want to be actors and performers and stuff like that. They kind of like have this whole, like, I want you to get to the top. And it's like, oh, you're not that good. But with the TV show now being what it is, there are more people jumping into drag who have no business there, who are trying to get on the show, and it's kind of like, you don't even like this, you're just trying to get on the TV show. So for the rest of us that are just doing this, like, I do it because I like it. It's not, I've given up on trying to do this full time. I do it because I enjoy it. If it becomes full time for me, it will ruin it. So, but trying to do that and just be in the space, the show has made it kind of hectic, to say the least.
Also, fuck Rufus Paulino.
I think so the way that new performers get into the scene is usually by doing local competitions. I know that's like one way that I got my name out. So I think there are some positives in having competitions, but absolutely, yes. People are constantly comparing themselves. People want to be a mold of what they've seen succeed in competitions instead of doing something individual, and then create award shows that are popularity contests. Vote for me.
I mean, those already existed, but yeah.
Right, second question.
Yes. Hey, everybody, most of you know me, I love you. This is not a question they were given prior, but just listening to all the questions that y'all were asked, it sounds like the one question that wasn't was, and so how do you unionize? How do you all collectively bargain together for the rates that you want, for the conditions that you want at the bar prior to you showing up, to make sure that all of you are making exactly what you deserve to. And so I'm wondering what any kind of work has been done in terms of trying to organize drag performers in DC into something resembling a union. And I work for a trade union, so it is similar to a lot of the work I do, which makes me really interested in it. But like, where are we at with that? And what do you think the biggest hurdles are to achieving that? Ricky's got something to say.
I think that's a very, very important conversation to be had. And I look forward to having more of those conversations. Especially because in the last 6 years that I've been part of the scene alone, there have been several conversations and efforts made. I think the biggest hurdle is, the fact of the matter is that a lot of the work is being done by Black and brown trans folks who are trying to just get by. At the end of the day, we're exhausted. We hit a wall. And so unfortunately, the burnout comes far too often and too quickly. So efforts then stop. Also, I would prefer to have this conversation on a not live stream.
All right, next question from the audience, go ahead.
Hey, most of you don't know me, but I was wondering about how with, Pride Month and all these big events, Capitol Pride, that kind of stuff, if, there's been an extra oversaturation of rude girls, and if Pride Month has in fact made your job as drag kings or alternative performers actually more difficult.
Real quick, what season is RuPaul's Drag Race in? 16. So for the past 16 years, it's made it more difficult. Okay, let's yeah, it's like the past 16 seasons. Right. Ever since the show has been on, essentially, maybe say the first 2 seasons, it's made it more hectic, more difficult. Even from the audience perspective, like I'm defending my own art to people who have never done it before. Literal fight in a bar. So it's just, it's interesting, it's weird, it's kind of the visibility that we didn't want. We wanted more, we didn't want this. So yeah, in Pride seasons, it's kind of like everyone up here said, oh, so you do have money, you just don't want to give it to anybody local. Cool. Yes, F my drag apparently.
Thankfully, Pride Month usually does mean more bookings for drag performers, which is great. But the difficulty becomes is, I mean, like, in the past like week, there's been like 5 or 6 rude girls here, which honestly, we usually have like maybe 1 a month here. And it then becomes, we're competing at a small local bar, to Sasha Colby. She's not coming, she already came, but, people were lining up hours and hours and hours and hours before Sasha Colby gets to see her. And yeah, that's great. She just won. She's incredible. Give her her flowers. There's not even anything remotely close like that energy given to local performers.
And then, yeah, I would say, at least for me personally, the bookings isn't necessarily the issue. It's the fact of the matter is that, yeah, now all the bars want to throw on a drag show, and now A, I don't get to see my friends unless we're working together. And then B, yeah, because we are now competing throughout the entire city to get support for your shows. So some of these shows that are being run by more marginalized performers may not get the or like the exposure, and therefore the attendance in order to equitably support that cast. And so like, it's like, obviously, yes, it's such a beautiful thing that there's so much going on, there's so much to choose from, but then those more marginalized performers still then see the like negative impacts of that. And then on top of that, how beautiful it would be to read books this regularly and have this much going on year round, not just for 1 month, where everyone then by the end of it is exhausted. I'm exhausted.
So I'm going to take the opportunity to ask the last question. So I am curious, and I kind of know, but I'm also, I would like folks to talk about it, how the actual bar owners, managers use drag performers as a way to kind of, I guess, shield themselves from criticism as being particularly historically menaces to people in the community.
They shield themselves by using us as tokens. Especially the brown and black of us, the marginalized of us, the trans of us. The more isms that you can suffer, the more that they want you for this week, not next month, but this week definitely. So.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a very particular bar in the city that starts with P and ends with Itchers, who very much uses token performers to
What? Whole troop of tokens.
yeah, a whole troop of token performers to now sweep a lot of their nasty behaviors from the past, and even not even just the past, still going under the rug. But I mean, we laugh about that. That is very, very serious, but it's not just that bar. Even some of our own chosen bars, like, we can always do better. It's not that everyone is on that same level, but there's always work to be done, and there's always conversations to be had. Because I mean, no one's perfect. Yeah, I would just like to see less. I don't know what I was saying. Yep, I just want to say that one thing real quick.
If you are impressed with what an alternative drag show can do on a Monday, a Tuesday, or Wednesday, imagine what we'd be able to do with a Friday or a Saturday budget.
Also, please treat us the same when we're out of drag as well. There's been so many times where I've like gone into a bar and they know what I look like out of drag. And they don't even look at me. And then when I'm in drag day, I'm their best friend.
And stop confusing your black and brown performers.
Oh God.
Can't give me every black red pink steak. Whatever you see, whatever, it's fine.
Same one.
All right, well, one more Applause for everyone on the stage. Thank you so much for coming and participating. So before we officially wrap up, if we could just go down the line and provide a little bit of this really exhausting month and let us know where we can find you in the recent future. If you have anything that you'd like to plug, feel free to go on ahead and do so now. Well, we also have the printed out papers with their information that you can directly donate to them. So please take advantage of those. Thank you, Bennett, for bringing those. So let's start here.
Spelled something, so please reiterate your tipping information.
You know, you can find me on Instagram, like Dynamite. If you're following them, they follow me, we all follow each other. So, I hate having to spell it because one time, sometimes I can't remember how to spell my own name. I had to like switch some more letters around. It's fine. I am doing one more show this month. I'm taking basically personal time off, just, you know, to relax, because my daytime job is trying to kill me as well. But I also co-host a show, at your bar every second Sunday, maybe getting rescheduled, but right now the next one is on June 11th, around 3-ish. We book everybody, so you're going to see something different every time. And we try to do that on purpose because of all the things you just heard. So I will see y'all out. If you see me out of drag, I'm probably drunk, so don't talk.
Oh, I love that for you, as you deserve, King. Yeah, I am a full-time performer, so I'm not, I have a lot going on. You can follow me on Instagram to find where I'll be. It is KINGGRICKYYROSEE. And then my tipping information, Venmo and Cash App, it is just RICKYYROSEE. Although I do want to plug the one event I've been looking forward to since last year is this Friday at the Black Cat. So it's right down here. It is Booty Rex. I shit you not, I know I'm biased, but it is hands down the most inclusive queer party I've ever had the privilege and honor to just be in the presence of. And the fact I get to work it is like, oh. So if you're not doing anything Friday, or if you want to hop around, definitely make sure you at least hit that spot. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, why do I want to? Yeah. The third Friday of every month, I run one of the only all drag king shows across the DMV, right over at Jesus Christ, some classes. Right over at JR's bar. This month, of course, is our Pride edition. We have a stacked as fuck lineup of not just local performers, but I have a drag king that is on a North American tour all the way from Austria. And just super talented king. So that is free. Third Friday, so June 16th over at JR's after Drag Race. We also, every single month, we partner with HIPS. If you are not familiar with HIPS DC, please look them up. They're a huge nonprofit who does a lot of work around decriminalizing sex work, as well as supporting local substance users. And so we partner with them to provide free condoms and naloxone, also known as Narcan, at every single We the Kings production this year at JR's. So please come through, have a little chat with them, and pick up some free harm reduction resources.
I have a drag account, but I'm not really like good at using it. So I just like market or promote my drag show, my main one, which is NB for Pay, ENBY for Pay. I guess the next place I'm gonna be at is Friday. I'm go-going at the Capitol Pride Riot official opening party. But that's kind of go-go, it's not really drag. Saturday, I'm hosting at Trade. I'm hosting a ton of pop-up drag shows throughout my shift. So it's gonna be a very busy evening for me, but it'll be a very fun evening for everybody, including me. And then my pay handle it says Samson Russell. My last name is spelled Russell. There are two L's. You are my grandmother. You've known me for years. Who else?
You can catch me next at Trade tomorrow. There will be a BIPOC happy hour, so come through. And then this weekend, I don't know, follow on social media for that. There's a lot. Every Monday at Dick Bar. Woo. And then I am hosting on the 18th at one of my former places of employment. The Extravaganza. Yes, regularly a reminder. It will be like a little like queer festival in the evening. It'll be cute, and then I'll be hosting Arlington Pride, which will be fun. And then my handles are on that sheet of paper, Henna Sexy. If you just look up Henna Sexy, I'll pick it up. HENNESSXY.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you have the funds and the resources, please support them today. You can do it right now while you're sitting there before you leave. That'd be great. Also, let's give a round of applause for our wonderful ASL interpreters. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, I think we can conclude this event. So thank you all so much for coming out, and we look forward to seeing you at different events. And hold on.
So one more thing, you have a flyer for the Great Labor Arts Exchange. That is happening June 15th through 18th in Linthicum Heights, Maryland. And they are co-sponsoring this event, which is awesome. So please check that out. It's a yearly thing. Right? It's yearly, right? Yes. All right.
What is it?
What? Elise, would you like to share what the Great Labor Arts Exchange is?
While we wait, can we also give it up for our moderator and organizer for the evening?
Hi, family. How y'all doing? My name is Elise Bryant. I'm the president of the Coalition of Labor Union Women, because I see my three sisters out here. I'm also the director of the Labor Heritage Foundation and one of the organizers of the Great Labor Arts Exchange. And I love that. And the last drag show, what was that?
Like February 18th or something?
Yeah. I came to that and I was like, oh man, I've been at a drag show for a really long time. It's like so much fun, but it was like, how could the Communist Party be having a drag show party? Where am I? What planet did I land on? And so I talked to Ben, I was like, yeah, let's talk about organizing in labor and workplace issues. And that's why I'm here. I mean, this is the work that I do. So I was really excited about having a panel at the Great Labor Arts Exchange, have this panel at the Great Labor Arts Exchange. So we didn't do it this year, but put us down for 2024 because it's important issues. And, you know, the work that you do, there is no menial work, there's only menial pay. That's Martin Luther King. And so that the work that you do is not menial by any stretch of the imagination. So why shouldn't you be paid a living wage? And you know, tipping came out of slavery, but that's a whole other rant altogether. The Great Labor Arts Exchange is a gathering of social justice, labor union activists from around the country. And we ask each person to bring their own thing to the exchange. It literally is like, you go up in front of the room, you tell your story or tell your joke or show your artwork or do your hip hop piece or do your theater piece or dance or move. Whatever it is, you know, you sing a song with the guitar, you got a lot of that. So, and then we have a contest. We have a songwriting contest, a poetry writing contest. It's all at laborheritage.org, laborheritage.org. Click on it, you see that the information there. And we do have a program called John Hancock. So if you can't afford to come, we have the funds to help folks attend. So thank you all very much. We'd love to see you there, but thank you all for this panel. This is wonderful. Drag community, drag people, drag person, drag family. Y'all have thanks.
Thank you all for coming, and I want to thank Brian again for being moderator. And please follow us at the Claudia Jones School. The information to follow us on social media is also on those pieces of paper. And follow us so we can keep doing events like this. All right, have a lovely evening.